Welcome to Squatch-D TV, where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D TV. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, April 19th, 2026. I'm your host, your guide, Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with the co-host with the most, right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. Hello, Chris.
Steve, man, good to see you. Hope things been going well for you up there.
Well, as you know, it's been a tricky weekend.
Yes, I understand that. Things happen.
So we're going to get down to business pretty early tonight because we got a couple of guests in waiting, and I want to make sure we want to say our bit. We want to get our material out, and we want to take questions and just have a discussion with our guests tonight as well.
Good deal.
I feel that that's mega important. And again, my apologies to Eric Palacios.
Me too, Eric. Me too.
Again, it was bad information, way overtired, not making excuses. The buck stops right here at the top, right here, not even down there, up here.
Too.
It stops. I'm at the top here, so it stops with me.
Well, see, that's the thing.
I take the blame.
That's why I want to see this stupid documentary, because I am tired of he said, she said, and having to give benefit of the doubt to everybody and his brother. I cannot stand that. All right. Now, not Eric in particular, but I'm talking about, well, Eric said this, Eric did that. Well, did he? Well, I don't know. Okay.
Right. And unfortunately, we got a little bit of bad information. The person who gave us that information has apologized for such, so that is forgiven.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, it's my bad for not really following up on that before putting it to air. And again, working all the hours I did, and I was way overtired. In fact, we didn't even talk 10 minutes after the show. I was like, I got to go to bed. I was beat. Yeah. And again, a lesson learned, and when you're not tired, don't put something up like that. I could have
wait till you see it for yourself.
Wait till I investigate it fully. So I take full blame for that.
No, you don't.
That's what we do, though. We take blame. We do take blame for our mistakes here. That is part of our program.
If we make a mistake, we will own it.
Right.
And that's we don't double down. No, we didn't do nothing wrong. No, we did something wrong. Sorry, we did it. Sorry.
Our bad, and we probably apologize. And in the course of 20 years, we've only done that a few times. Only a couple of times I can remember, actually.
I would only think that this is the first time, because...
No, there was that whole Russell Accord thing, too.
Well...
That wasn't really a YouTube... Yeah. It wasn't really a YouTube thing, but anyway.
Yeah, that would be twice. Right. That would be twice.
And in 20 years of broadcasting, our average is still pretty high.
Was that for me?
And admitted both.
Alexa's talking. No, that was not for you, Alexa. Shut up.
Oh, okay. Oh.
I
thought that was your wife in the background. I thought that was your wife back there. Steve, is that for me? No, baby.
So anyway, all right, let's get out of the presentation tonight.
Okay.
So we can get our guests on. I want to get them on before
don't want everybody to go sleep backstage there. Yeah. Come on, guys.
Anyway, the question is, am I a legacy Bigfoot researcher? I've recently found out that I am being considered a legacy Bigfoot researcher, but when context? Well, the real context of a legacy Bigfoot researcher is an individual whose body of work, contribution, and influence has had a lasting impact on Bigfoot research, extending beyond their own active years. Well, I'm still in my active years, so that kind of wipes me out right there. But in shaping how the subject is studied, discussed, or understood by others over time. And I think having 20 years of a show, that kind of help hopefully will do that. Some of the key elements are longevity in the field. Well, I've been doing this since 98. Documenting contributions, books. Yeah, we've done all that stuff. Influence on others. I am in the Bigfoot Influencers book, and I have influenced a lot of people. I've put a couple of people under my wing that are in the Bigfoot field. And recognizable body of work. Well, I don't know how recognizable it is, but it is what it is. There's still a couple of pieces of evidence that I've evaluated that's put up there today that I was the first one to evaluate. So, yeah. And of course, enduring relevance. I try, if I'm not relevant for a while, and so be it. It don't matter to me. It just, I always try to bring something new to the table with discussion. Like last year's lecture series was on AI and how we can use it to further our Bigfoot research, how we can look at reports and stuff like that. So I always try to keep something new, fresh, whatever. But it's never based on something made up. It's never based on, oh, I saw this, or, it's never based on that. I mean, in my lectures, if you've ever, and Chris, you've seen my lectures, it's based on either what I do or some of my ideas or some of my philosophies. It's never based on, I've never done a lecture based on the Patterson-Gimlin film. I've never done a lecture even using the Patterson-Gimlin film. I don't believe I ever used that as an example. Maybe I have, maybe in my earlier years, but I don't believe I have, because my very first lecture I ever did was basically what turned out to be What Would Sasquatch Do, the first book, where it took primate behavior and stuff like that. And that was my very first year of lecture circuits, is how we can interpret behaviors. And in turn, it'll help us either validate sightings or not validate sightings, because if they're not primate-like, then it's not a Bigfoot sighting. But I digress. So that is the... Now, let me talk about stereotyping, because there seems to be this new thing out that a legacy Bigfoot researcher is somebody who is, is chained to money or under the influence of legacy media or whatever. Yeah. And that is, and if I'm a legacy Bigfoot researcher, then that is stereotyping. Right? It's a fixed, oversimplified, often wrong belief about a particular group of people or things, and involves assuming everyone in a group is the same, ignoring individual differences. It's a shortcut in thinking, paints everyone with the same brush. And in prejudice, it's preconceived opinion that is not based on reason or actual experience. When have I, tried to just go along with the gang? I haven't. I'll give you a great example, 2008. When everybody wanted me to condemn Mr. Snapple of being involved in the Georgia Bigfoot hoax, right? And I said, at this time, I don't think so. But I was in the process of collecting the evidence to get him. But I could not accuse him of that until I have the evidence in the other hand, right? Dropping an accusation not only leads to a lot of legal problems, especially in this particular big worldwide incident, but at the same time, it gives me the confidence once I come out and say it to back the shit up that I say. Yeah. Right? So that's really important. But everybody came down on me because of that. Right? Yep. Is that your, a chain to, big Bigfoot or big pharma, big Bigfoot? No, not at all. In fact, I have lost probably more opportunities in legacy media because I am so fucking skeptical of 90% of the things. Yeah. Right?
Things would have went a lot different if you'd hitched your wagon to that horse,
Right.
Or your horse to that wagon.
Right. Right. So let me get off of that. So I just want people who believe that to look at themselves as a person, because what you're doing, where you would say that in one particular group of people, you're not saying it within your own community, right? So I am very farthest from legacy Bigfoot people in that particular aspect. Yes. Now we got to go into the no wife zone, and the reason why and the reason why I say this is I promise full disclosure tonight. Everybody on the channel is going to get full disclosure. And just so you know, Chris, you have the chat tonight. Again, I don't see what's going on.
Okay.
Nor do I probably want to. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, let's get into the no wife zone. And the reason why I call it that is because that's what would happen if my wife actually saw the actual numbers of what, and I got a couple of add-ons too when we do this, but you know, I have been attributed to, well, you must take money from all the shows you've done. How much money have you made? There's the actual payout, what I've gotten for each show. It's pretty easy. I've taken $1,000, and that was for The Truth Behind the Loch Ness Monster, because I had to take a unpaid leave of absence from work to spend 9 days, almost a week and a half, in Scotland. And they offered it. We'll give you $1,000 and we'll pay for your passport. And, you know, we'll take care of your meals, flights, all that stuff. And that's what they did. They didn't force me to say anything. In fact, they would ask me, could you say this? Well, I would rather say that. Okay, say what you feel comfortable with. If I have a production company that does not want to have me say something that I don't feel comfortable with, I ain't going to friggin' say it. Yeah. And the reason why is I've agreed to go on camera, but I've never taken payment from any of them. Not a single one. Not a single one. In fact, I do the proof is out there as one of the Bigfoot, quote unquote, experts, right? Yeah. They like me because I have that skeptical spin, because I side-eye everything a little bit. It doesn't mean some of the stuff that I say is put on the cutting room. It doesn't land up on the cutting room floor. I'm certain it does. But what I'm saying is they haven't paid me a single cent to do that show. They mail me the camera kit. I set it at my office. I do the show. I pack the kit back up. I send it back. But in all these other things, Monster Quest, Paranatural, Mysteries and Monsters Unsolved, America's Book of Secrets, all of those. American Sasquatch Hunters, that was shot at a conference by our good friend Jay Michael. Mountain Devil 2, that was shot in my office by our good friend over at, I'll remember, I'm being an old man again. Small Town Monsters, you know, I'm friends with Seth and Alex. So, you know, all of those are done at my cost. It's my gas. They don't pay me for gas. They don't pay me to set up camp and have food and buy some firewood to start the fire. And, you know, while we're gathering other firewood, they don't pay me that stuff. That's all on me. And why do I do it? People are like, well, why do you do it? Why? Because it's promotion for the channel. It's a little attention. It gets me more reports. And that's the way we move things. And the same token, I get to go out there and tell the truth as I see it. Right? I mean, that's it. And that's what the show has always been. And that's what everything I've done since day one has been about. Let's put out the most decent we can. And if I'm wrong, sometimes I'm wrong. All right. If I'm being led astray by something, okay, I'm wrong. So be it. Nobody is 100% right 100% of the time. But this thing, like I'm tied to, you know, big media, and that's why I have to go along with everything. I don't, and that's the reason why I haven't had my own TV show, because I'm a dick when it comes to certain evidence. Right? I go into a thing going, all right, what can we find wrong with this? That's the investigator in me.
Yeah.
All right, rolling on. So this is the reason why we go into the no wife zone. This is what the channel cost me a month to run, a year to run. Almost $3,700. You know, between having the high-speed internet, you know, everything, that's what it costs to run this channel. And in that, what is not included in that is the $100, $129 Stream Deck, the $99 tablet I have here to tie in the phone interface, the $600 soundboard and mic, the $700 GoPro kit for when we go out in the field, the other microphones that I've bought, like the boom mics.
The 150,000 co-host salary is not included in that.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, just for that, I'm giving you a 50% raise of what you're making now.
Oh, well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
But yeah, and then there's the lighting that you had to purchase, the new webcam, because I had upgraded the webcam stand. I mean, I look at everything and the cost of things. How am I? That was financed, for crying out loud. Most of the stuff was financed. I have something called Zip Pay that I use, and I use that to, all right, I need a $700 payment. I'm going to get that. Oh, let me go to my I'm living on Bigfoot bank account.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Jesus
think if
Christ.
anybody is going to try to make a living off Bigfoot, it's going to be tough.
Right,
It's gonna be
right.
tough, yeah.
Right. Now, some people say, well, you don't need that. You don't need that. That's true, but I have that to enhance the program.
Yeah.
You know, we want to take the show to the next level. That's what you got to do sometimes. You got to spend a little money. And yes, we advertise.
Wait a minute, let me get this. Southern Sierra, put $10. Feeling the guilt.
That's not what this is meant for. Sorry, no.
But
Thank you,
so
Danny.
much. Appreciate
Danny.
that.
Now, feel the guilt even more. This is what we make. This is the yearly take on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? Now compare that to what we spend. $3,700, right? And that's not counting the times I go into the field and spend my own money doing that. That's not counting the times like when we do these documentaries for people. And that's why we call this a no-wife zone.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
can
can tell you the sound that makes when you get hit in the head with a cast iron frying pan is bong.
No, it's this. That's what it is. That's what it is, right? So again,
Definitely bong sound. Bong.
Years ago, we set up the 5 tenets of Bigfoot research. This is a mission statement. I don't see anybody else doing a mission statement like this in my whole lifetime. And this has been up in one form or another in the last 10 years. You know, keep an open mind, remain objective, because keeping an open mind doesn't mean throwing away the science books. Always tell the truth. Doesn't matter if it's for your cause or against your cause. You complete everything on a case-by-case investigation. Learn and educate. Learn as much as you can, and you have responsibility to educate people as well. If somebody says, oh, well, you know, I heard this whole miner got kidnapped back in the 1920s, you can go, oh, time out. I'm not so sure about that.
Mick,
Thank you, Mick.
5 memberships. Thank you so much, Mick.
Thank you, Mick.
Appreciate
And I enjoyed our phone call today, by the way, Mick. Mick and I were on the phone for a little bit today. Yapping. Mick has been with us now for almost 20 years, I think. He's been with us since the start. Yep. And be fearless. And by being fearless, I mean, be afraid to go against the grain. That changed. It used to be exposed to charlatans. Now it's be fearless. That means
Walter
I don't
Kroll.
care.
Walter gifted 5 memberships.
You guys
Thank
are
you so
too
much,
much.
Walter. Oh, we're not worthy. Thank you.
Not worthy. And that's not the reason why we're doing this.
No.
The reason why I'm doing
I think
this
everybody's feeling bad now that they realize that this is not the money-making adventure.
This is not the money-making machine everybody thought it was.
Yeah, kids, number 6 should have been, don't plan on making your living from Bigfoot, because it's not going to work out.
You know, I always say I have 3 kids. I actually had 5 kids. I sold 2 of them to finance this. No, in reality, that's it. But be fearless I'm not afraid to go against the grain. And that's why things are going to really change, I think, when this documentary comes out, because I'm going to see it and I'm going to be going, and guess what's probably going to happen? Because Chris and I have talked, and he knows that I already have a good leaning. Right? Not just on what's being said, but on other things. But that's for another day. That's for another show. And that's for another time. But on that point,
Nick said Steve ain't no legacy researcher. He's more like Johnny Rotten of Sasquatch research.
No, I'm just rotten. But anyway, let's get our guests on. And of course, returning from recently, we have our good friend Jeff Harding. And of course, returning after a long absence. And good to have him back on, our friend Pat Turner. Hello, Pat and Jeff. How are you guys?
Hey, Steve, Chris.
Good to see you, Jeff.
Pat.
See you, Pat.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So, Pat and I, we everybody knows, Pat and I have had our disagreements, but I still love the guy. No matter how much we've done, I still love the guy. We may have our differences, but I'm not, and Chris knows this, I'm not one to hold a grudge. I'm not. Very few people that I have a grudge against. The guy in California, the Snapple dealer.
Yeah, that's one. Yeah,
that's one. But it's like friendships are more important than disagreements. And that's the way I feel. And Pat, if I've hurt you, I apologize. And that's
You've not hurt me, and I'll accept your apology anyway, I guess. But, like, same, bro.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look, we're people. We're just people. Street lights, people.
Street light.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny how many people get that. Dude, it's all good. Like, we're here to have a real discussion.
Amen.
Okay. And whatever. Like, dude, you and I can disagree about this or that or the other.
Sure.
That could be like for another place, another time. I think we're here now, like, obviously, to like kind of focus on like Bigfoot legacy media, whatever the hell that is. And concentrate on the fact that what I'll say about that right now up front is that it's all entertainment. It's all entertainment. What's gotten lost. So, when Eric says Bigfoot legacy media, because he's the one that coined that term, it's all gotten lost. The truth, like where's the truth in all this? Has gotten lost by the BS that is clearly there. No one can deny it. There are people with mental problems. There are people with, attention problems.
Amen.
And the Bigfoot world is a very easy place to come to.
Yep.
And claim all that. And then you have the pop culture aspect on top of all that.
Sure.
And so everything, whatever the Bigfoot phenomena is, which is this, it's tiny. It's this. It's just this little thing, which is called the Bigfoot phenomena, which is head scratching. Nobody knows what it is. It can't be explained. And it goes right out the window, and all the BS takes over.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. My issue is what program has anybody seen me on where I was not being 100% honest with what was going on? The shows I have been on are straight up documentaries. They're not made for entertainment. Like, that's the reason why I choose not to mind to be on documentaries, because documentaries tend to document. But we look at, these episodic TV shows that they got to build up to the next week. And I remember watching, who was that, Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, right? Yeah. And I told I was watching with the wife, and I said, watch this. Because I already knew this was all, because every time a Bigfoot would show up, they'd all run away. And then at the very last, I said, watch this. Something's going to happen. And sure enough, the cabin goes up on fire to lead in for the next season, which never happened, by the way, thank God. But it was so predictable that I know these are right.
That at the time that was big media. And now we have this other thing. So where most of everything Bigfoot lies now is in Facebook and YouTube.
Right, yeah.
And what I'm saying is, so I'm just gonna say this up front to both of you, all of you, even Jeff, is that it's all BS. Like, for the most part, it's you can never decipher the BS from the whatever reality. Let's just whatever nuggets of reality exist there.
Right.
You can never ever decipher.
Absolutely.
Because the social media Bigfoot world, the Bigfoot church is what I call it.
I agree. You're not saying I don't disagree with.
It's almost 100% BS.
Almost.
So there's
almost.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's 99. It's 99.9 whatever.
Okay, but do you think shows like yours and Nikki's and Jeff's and mine and maybe Brent's, do you think we're part of that church? Do we act like we're part of that church?
No, we're sort of separated from the church, but we're
Right. That's right.
There's always a tie to the church because of the audience.
Well,
Okay.
but again, if you look at it from a religious aspect, all Christians are tied to something in common.
I'm not trying to get that hardcore with
No, but that's if we're going to call Bigfoot a church, everybody here is tied to something in common. In this case, it's the phenomenon, right? Right.
Yes,
So if we compare it, it's kind of like that, and there are different sects and different. For my audience, I said sects, SECTS, not SEX. I got to clarify that for the audience.
Dang it. I thought we were going to talk about something cool here, man.
No, okay. So
I was
on
going to
that,
grab
on
a
that,
beer there for a second.
Yeah.
So on that, it's extremely tribal.
Right.
Yeah. So it's similar. Look, you just have to wrap your head around the concept, the church concept, and the tribalism that happens. And there is tribalism in organized religion, but we are not talking about religion, even though it kind of is.
Yeah, well, it is. It's a belief. It's a belief system, and that's the problem. Is that
that's the problem I have with it. Yes.
The aforementioned shows.
Nothing to do.
And I appreciate
with
you.
The undiscovered primate.
Right.
Nothing to do with the undiscovered primate.
Right. I mean, we don't mind reporting on stories that happen, like the Ohio flap or the Ontario flap. That's what's going on. I mean, that's news.
Yeah,
but we want to. It isn't. It's not. Something's going on there. But you know what? We say that as information for people to further explore.
Yeah, but what information is there? There is no information. It's one guy, one freaking person is bringing that, and he could be full of crap, or he could have been fooled by people, or there could be a guy running around in a suit, which is the most likely scenario.
I don't know if they're running around all over Ontario, because that was the issue in that particular incident. In Ohio, kind of the same thing, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do is not necessarily.
You can't say it's Bigfoot though.
If people are saying it's Bigfoot, again, I can only report on what's being reported to me, and those are anecdotal. When I have a witness in front of me and I interview him, then that's a little bit different.
It's too watered down, man.
Yeah,
anybody can say anything. Anybody can say anything. Anyone can say anything.
Agreed.
That's reality.
That's why I preach forensic interviewing. I preach in following up on cases. Right?
I know. I get that, Steve. And you know what? Like, I appreciate your passion with that. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that none of that does any good. It's been how many years since the PG film, which is the only reason why we're here. The only reason why we're here.
The reason why you know what? I never saw the Patterson Gimlin film is not what got me into this.
You wouldn't be here without it. You wouldn't be here.
I certainly would.
Oh, wrong.
Had
nothing to do with it.
All right. So
this is the reason why I'm into this. Right, and there's no Patterson Gimlin film in this book.
How would you be here with your audience and the numbers that you have in your audience? How in the hell would you ever be here without Patterson Gimlin film? Explain that to me.
To my charm and personality.
Okay, so
you are making a total hypothetical situation that doesn't exist. That's why I like having you on. Right. The fact is, it was here. It is here. There's nothing we can do to change it. Nobody can tell what would happen if it wasn't there.
No, it's very easy to. It's very easy
to speculate, but there's no evidence. No, don't yell over. Don't yell over. It's easy to speculate. It's easy to speculate.
I'm not speculating.
You most certainly are. You're acting like it's if you are giving a hypothetical situation. Hypothesis is speculation. That's a synonym.
Well, I can draw it out. I mean, I can show you the linear timeline of how the Patterson-Gimlin film created eyes and ears that wouldn't have existed otherwise. With
I agree with that.
That didn't
Yeah.
exist. That didn't exist with the Chapman incident. That didn't exist with Osman. That didn't exist with William B. Rowe. That
None of
didn't-
those things would have been a catalyst. None of those things.
They wouldn't have.
No.
The whole term Bigfoot happened 9 years before the Patterson-Gimlin film.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
Dude, the reason why the $6 Million Man episode with Bigfoot existed was because of the PG film.
That
That's
didn't
it.
influence me either.
Yeah, I know. Well, what you don't understand is what I'm saying is the eyes and ears for to listen to you wouldn't have existed without that.
You can't say that for sure.
There's
You
no
can't-
doubt we'd be speaking to a smaller audience.
Yeah. I mean, a smaller audience, but they would be there.
Let me
No,
get
they
my
will-
2 cents in for a second,
Not-
guys.
not
Let
like
me get my
this.
2 cents in. Now, I can agree with what Pat's saying. There is a segment of the Bigfoot audience that based their belief on only seeing the Patterson-Gimlin film
Correct.
because they hadn't had it.
Yeah.
So with those people and individuals, it's going to be like, well, now if the Patterson-Gimlin film is a hoax, you know, man, this whole thing is just bull because of that fact. They based their belief on that one piece of evidence, and that's going to be that's going to be it. There's going to be a bunch of people out there.
What
Yeah, go
better
ahead.
evidence was there? There is no better evidence. Like that
Of
was
the
it.
Video,
I don't think so.
Right. Video. That
Yeah,
was great evidence of video.
I mean, it was the trifecta. It was
Yes.
It was a filmed observation,
right,
with tracks left behind,
right.
and one living eyewitness. I mean, there's nothing like that was the best. So if that falls, then there's nothing. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing.
I think some
Well,
of the track
yeah, there
evidence
is.
is unique.
Yeah, there is. There
There is,
casts,
but it's
there's
not.
other sightings.
I mean, the only reason why you're thinking that is just like the rest of us. You too, Pat, when you first got into this, you were indoctrinated in the Patterson-Gimlin film is the golden fleece. I never said that. I never thought that. You can tell in my book, The Sasquatch Playbook, looking at the Bigfoot Mystery through the eyes of a skeptic, that I didn't believe that the Patterson-Gimlin film nor the Sierra Sounds was the golden fleece as people claim they are.
It was the best evidence, though.
It wasn't. It wasn't evidence at all. Well, the Patterson-Gimlin film we know it's not going to. It's likely not going to be evidence at all.
I said the best. I didn't say it was evidence.
It can't be. It can't be the best evidence if it's fake.
Yeah. Well, of course, Steve. I mean, no shit, right? But
Right.
right.
But still, explain why we're finding tracks. Explain why we are witnesses are seeing.
No. It's not about anecdote. It's about
Not
evidence.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
This is not an anecdote. This is physical evidence
Of what?
of a footprint that I heard walk around us, that I smelled. Right? And then there it is. Oh my God, look at this trackway.
Well,
Well,
but
fuck,
Steve,
dude. I
you're
mean,
going.
That's not anecdotal.
I mean-
That is a piece of physical evidence.
Okay, well, I can't wait to turn on CNN tomorrow.
Well,
and
that's fine, but we
see
all know.
breaking news, you know?
But we all know how foot castings are accepted with science. They're not.
Why? Why is that?
Well, that's
Why?
a good question because they
it
accepted
is.
they accepted the Billy ape footprints before the Billy ape was discovered.
All right, different species. Gotcha.
Right. So
Why not Bigfoot?
Why not? Because it's a controversial subject
question.
that a lot of scientists, that Meldrum specifically addressed when he was alive, and that Krantz openly addressed when he was alive, that the responding anthropologists or the scientific departments around them thought they were crackpots for going after this stuff. In fact, there is another legion that used to be the same with UAPs. I had a great conversation with Stanton Friedman and the similarities between the UAP phenomenon and science and Bigfoot and science. And that there is again, in their community, which is like a church.
Let me get this up here. Bugs Mitchell says, people have
Bugs.
experienced Bigfoot independent of the Patterson-Gimlin film. The idea everything hinges on it is absurd, in my humble opinion.
And I agree with that.
That's right. That's right.
It's just that it was the absolute best piece of evidence.
It was not it was just, but if it was absolutely the best evidence, why do I have Dr. John Napier's book written in 1973 calling it a hoax?
Well, I think it goes down as being
fine.
the longest piece of
I'm just saying.
Pat, let me finish here, guys. Steve, let me finish.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the Patterson-Gimlin film was the longest running Bigfoot film that had not been debunked.
Correct.
And so we could look at that and we could say, well, this hasn't been debunked, so that makes it pretty decent for evidence, of video evidence of one of these creatures.
Right.
But there are also things in that video about that creature that don't play with a real creature too.
Hey, and Pat, if you're saying that, listen, because the Patterson-Gimlin film, and of course we always say maybe a hoax. We got to see the actual documentary to, put the cherry on top if that is right.
My mind's made up.
Your mind's made up, but we all, as far as me, my standard is you got to see the evidence to put your gavel down. That's
fine. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're right. In a way, it puts us back to 1967 as far as research goes. That's a fair statement. What did we have in 1967? Same what we have now, without the Patterson-Gimlin film. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of. So we're just going to have to reinvent the wheel. We're going to have to get out there and spin the wheels. Luckily, I have something called Project Forest Stalker, which I'm trying to get scientists on board with. I've reached out to several. This season's going to be very interesting because I'm going to actually be face-to-face with some scientists. And that in of itself has some very interesting evidence that excludes any North American fauna responsible for it, at least any known North American fauna.
Well,
and that,
again, I can't wait to turn on CNN and see that. Like, I just don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime.
Probably not, because you know what? The media has become our enemy over the years. Because think about it. In the 60s and 70s, they were 80s. I know, I was around watching it. They were doing very fair. Bigfoot was seen. Now, since the 90s, you have legacy media or these news networks coming out. A Bigfoot was seen on blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you were talking about stupid hit piece stories or whatever.
And that's what you normally see on these types of things, or hit pieces.
What I'm talking is a scientific conference that happens where a scientist goes, you know what? We actually found some interesting DNA here. Some kind of real discovery.
Right. No, I agree. I don't disagree.
And so that, if you don't think that will hit the news hard, of course it will.
Right. And that's why if I can team with a scientist to kind of look at the results that we've gotten, the 57-page scientific report we've already written on it, 57 pages long, 9 different examples. And if we can get this in the hand of the right scientist that can look at it, listen to it, confirm it, put it out there with us, co-sign it with us, get it into a journal, then we may have something. That's the purpose of Project Forest Stalker.
Well, you would have something, and that is one way to get to discovery.
Right. Right.
I'll say it. At least I'll say that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. No,
that
not a lot of
would be
people
one
do.
way to get there. That would be one way to get there. Yeah.
Right.
Biological discovery, because you know why? We have the technology to biologically discover them.
And I will say this, that within that body of evidence, there is another piece of evidence that's totally separate, and it has 3 initials on it, DNA. So we need to raise money to get the DNA done on it, but we can't do that until we get this paper out here or in front of some eyes that will say, oh, we need to take a look at that jar.
Well, Steve, you could just use some of those millions of dollars you're making from these shows.
Absolutely.
Of course, right? You know,
I mean,
you and me both, right?
Yeah. I am the farthest thing from being your I'm an Aquarius, so I go to the beat of my own drum a lot of times. Unfortunately, Chris has learned that.
$3,700 cost is the opposite of a cash grab. It's a cash hole in the sack.
Yeah, but it would be worth millions of dollars.
I don't think it'd be worth millions. It's not worth anything. I mean,
yeah, it is.
Yes, no, I mean, you think a DNA sample would be worth that much?
To discover Bigfoot would be worth endless millions of dollars. Absolutely.
I don't see, and the funny thing is, I've never even thought of it.
How do you not get that? Like,
how do I not get that? It's going to be given to a lab. Here's the report. What do I do? I mean, how do I make money out of that? I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Every single
single
fucking production company in the world would come banging on your door of like how telling that story.
But the whole thing is, it's a team effort. So it's not my story. It's not entirely my story. In fact, the biggest part of it is not my story.
It doesn't matter. Right. So everyone makes money. Everyone makes money. Yeah.
But I'm not even worried about that. They see, that's the thing, the difference between me and the stereotypical legacy Bigfoot researcher. How can I profit from this? No, I don't care. They would come to me. Hey, want to do an interview? Yeah. I'm not going to charge them to do the interview. I want to get the word out. I want validation for the witnesses. I want to validate my sightings. I want to validate Chris's sightings. I want to validate Jeff's.
You're standing on a virtuous hill.
But that's who I am, and I've always been. I've been a romantic at heart. My whole identity has been getting at the truth, not about making as much money as I can.
Okay, that's. I'm not saying I'm not accusing you of trying to make as much money as you can off Bigfoot. What I'm saying is, if you had the opportunity to 2 in the chest and 1 in the fucking face, and you knew that would result in endless millions of dollars, worldwide fame, and possibly a.
But hold on,
possibly a Nobel Peace Prize, you're probably going to pull that trigger.
But the whole point of that is that's not where my priorities are. If I had...
Well, where are your priorities?
My priorities is, finally, we get to get this thing out and we get the truth out there. We get to validate the friggin' witnesses. I have talked to some pretty traumatized witnesses. And one witness...
Again, you're standing on the virtuous hill.
But that's me. That's what I've gotten into this, is for the virtue, not for the money of it.
So you're really that virtuous?
I am.
You're going to own that right now.
I own it right now. I'm not looking. I'm not looking.
So you want to discover Bigfoot to validate all the people that said they saw.
Abso-fucking-lutely. I've always said to Chris that if we came across a dead body of a Bigfoot, I would load it in the truck, and the first place I would go is to the television station and say, "Look in that fucking truck." No money asked, nothing. Yep, look in that truck.
Yeah, but the money's going to come your way. You realize that.
But I'm not worried about that. That's not my
That's not the goal.
That's not your motive.
That's not my motive. That's not my motive. My motive is this: if anything, that would be the legacy. Yeah, I'd be the one. Okay, this is the guy that did it. That'd be kind of cool. But the other thing is, and I think of my good late friend, Dan Gordon. And that man got so emotional about his Bigfoot sighting. He was a police officer, had one in Whitehall, New York in '82, kept it quiet for 12 years until the man had a heart attack. And he thought he was going to die, and he went public with it because he didn't want the truth. He wanted the truth to be known. And I knew that man for another, oh God, when did he pass? I maybe know him for another 12 years, always with the bad heart. And he would get so emotional about having a sighting and wanting it to be solved so he can be vindicated. And that's who I dedicate this to, is to him. I love the guy. He was the sweetest man in the world, nicest man in the world. And the Lord took him way too soon. And
that's
my,
believe you.
That's my point. It's never about the money. If money comes, so be it. That's not the purpose.
What's gonna come? And so, here's the thing. Here's the parameter and the reality parameter I want to frame this entire thing into, which needs to be understood and is never talked about in the Bigfoot world. Okay, which is, if there's an undiscovered primate roaming around North America in 2026, okay, and it's whatever, 8 feet tall, 800 pounds, let's just roughly say, right? That is one of the most amazing biological discoveries in human history.
I agree.
And so the weight of that alone is humongous.
Yeah.
That is huge. There's a huge weight that comes with that. And so I get for you to say, like, I believe you. You're talking about your friend, like your friend that died, and everything else you're talking about with, the personal nature of the subject.
Right.
You cannot ignore the weight of what an undiscovered primate would actually be. And that's huge. It's beyond any of that.
I do in a philosophical term, not in a monetary term. That's the funny thing. And Chris can attest to you this.
But the money will come. The money will come.
And so be it. So be it if it does. If anything, that money, a lot of that money, if it came to me, would go to further researching what this is. You follow what I'm saying? Is that?
Oh, that would just happen naturally.
Well, it would, but I would, I would be very interested in seeing it further studied. But let me make a clarification. I don't think I have the gall to drop one with a weapon or firearm. Even if it was there in front of me, I had a firearm in my hands. I have never hunted in my life. I couldn't kill a squirrel, right? And Chris knows this. I've talked to Chris about that. I can't kill an animal. I can't kill an animal. It just goes against my heart.
If I strapped a Bigfoot to a pole and said, "Kill it, Steve," I'll give you $20 million.
Couldn't do it.
You wouldn't do it?
Couldn't do it.
I would. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Call me.
I wouldn't even think about it.
But
I wouldn't even think about it.
But
I'd
Chris,
be like, bam.
Yeah, I understand that. See, I'm not that. I'm not that way though. And
really,
really, yeah. I'm just not. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Man. I would not be.
I would.
Chris can attest to this. I have such a soft heart. I have such a soft heart when it comes to animals.
So do I. Yeah. I'm not a hunter. I don't even fish. I don't fish. I've never killed a fish in my life. Right?
I feel like I need to take all the shit on my wall behind me down here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I kill a fucking Bigfoot in a heartbeat.
Bugs Mitchell says killing Bigfoot is murder. I can't believe he just said that.
Well, technically,
is killing Bambi a murder?
Let me put that on a legal definition standpoint. Is that I had to do some research years ago whether or not killing one of the shows asked me to do it, and I even said it on it. Unfortunately, killing a Bigfoot is not murder. Because it's not on the books. All right. If it's right.
It is not on the books.
It's not on the books. Mm-hmm. So it's not even protected normally unless there's a specific law, like in Skamania County or Whitehall
Ordinance.
Yeah. Ordinance or right. Mm-hmm. Unless there's a specific ordinance, it's not illegal to do that. And that kind of kills the whole MK Davis massacre theory.
It's like saying it's illegal to kill the flying spaghetti monster. It's the same thing. Like, I'm sorry, it just is.
Well, the first one you could probably get away with. The second one probably be problems.
Probably not, because chances are that protective laws would go up almost immediately at the federal level.
Yeah.
You know, if one is brought in and discovered, or either alive
look, we have. Look, this is special. We're going to protect these things. We're going to protect the Bigfoot. So we're going to protect the Bigfoot. Right? Yeah. You're right.
Well,
I mean,
depends on the individual. You know, there's going to be some people that, they can see a dollar sign.
Not that they necessarily need protection, because how many years has it been and nobody's brought one in yet?
Right. That's why we can protect them and stay away from them.
Right.
Yeah. What's up with that? So going along with that line of thinking, we should probably just shut the conversation down and leave.
Yeah, if we don't want to prove they exist, sure.
Leave them the fuck alone, right? Just let them be.
Let them be, okay.
That would be the best thing to do.
Last show, folks.
Yeah.
The problem is,
you can't disagree with my logic there.
No. It would be an amazing discovery, and what it would do for science. Like, where did this come from? Is this an Australopithecine? Is this a Homo? Is this an Ardipithecine? Is this even a descendant of the Paranthropus, which mysteriously just disappeared off the planet at one time? Very interested, but and like I said, I'm leaning towards it's a relative of Paranthropus rather than anything else. Because Paranthropus was much like the Homo genus.
Yeah, but that's your thinking. Yeah, yeah, that's your thinking. That's your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's your thinking.
Jump in there, Jeff. Anytime. Mix it. I want to hear what Jeff had to say.
Well, Jeff's been quiet because he's hearing a decent conversation.
Jeff, I do want to hear from you.
Yeah. Let Jeff. We'll shut up now and let you talk.
Politics, religion, and Bigfoot, right? I mean, that's what it's really come down to. But I'll move backward in the conversation on things that I didn't throw out there, and that is the PGF film had no bearing on the encounter that I had, or how I reacted to it, or how I dealt with it. I would agree that when it comes to the media, if I was going to check to see if you're alive or not, I'm not going to check your pulse on your earlobe. I'm going to see if you've got blood flow in your neck. And the Patterson Gimlin film was the spot the media is going to check to see if this body is alive or not. That just because it was such a cultural influence. The instinct for the media to look at, well, what other evidence can we pay attention to? Let's really deep dive into this. It ain't going to happen. They're going to declare the victim dead when the PGF film is shown to be a hoax, if that were to happen.
They did that. They did that almost. They did that 24 years ago. By the way.
Yeah. When Ray Wallace
died. When Ray Wallace died, and I don't think any of you were in Bigfoot research at that particular point in time, but in 2002 or 2004, when Ray Wallace died, they declared Bigfoot's dead. Yeah. They had headlines: Bigfoot's dead. The man responsible for making the tracks was dead. Well, it's still been going on. You know, here we are 3 decades later, and it's still going on. So I think you're going to look at a temporary hump. But it's going to move on to other things.
Look, this is a cyclic.
It's going to change everything.
Until you have a body in a truck, this is always going to be a cyclic topic.
Right.
That until you have truth to define the mystery or the phenomena that everybody could look at and unequivocally declare the same thing, that appears to be truth you have there.
Jeff's talking about the world, not the Bigfoot community.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. And so to back up even further, if I was to say Steve has had an encounter. Chris has had a couple encounters. I've had a pretty impactful encounter, even though it was quite a while ago. But if I was sitting in Pat's shoes to where I'm looking at everything I can take in other than standing in front of one myself, I'd probably tell all you to pack your shit up and get out. That's where I'd be. And I'll tell you why. Because like I've said before, in 25 years of guiding in the most wilderness, remote areas of North America, 9,000 hours through a spotting scope, I have probably produced more evidence to argue that it is unlikely that they exist than that it is likely they could exist. I haven't recreated what I experienced in 1987.
That's a huge statement.
But yet, because I stood in front of what I stood in front of and unmistakably was able to look at what I looked at and endure the experience that I had, it's not elective surgery for me. I don't have the opportunity to step to a different corner of the room and say, it's too warm over there, it's too cold over there. I don't agree with what this is. Whether or not the Patterson-Gimlin film is a hoax has no bearing on where I'm going. And the research that I do, the most purest type of science that ever existed before there were agendas and money and narratives was when two guys would stand on top of a hill, look down at a river and say, I wonder what kind of fish are in that river. And they said, let's walk down there and figure it out. Science was driven by curiosity, not money and agendas. And based on what I encountered and my need to understand where those answers exist is never going to be driven by money. Now, to defend what Pat's saying, if I find one or I was to find a body or whatever hard forensic evidence I could produce, if after dropping it off somebody says, I'm going to write you a check if you'll talk to me first about it, that was not my initiative or motive that made me walk down the hill to see what kind of fish are in that river. That is strictly driven by my need for an answer to the truth of this mystery. That's it. That's all that motivates me. I've turned down huge opportunities to make money. And I've never been at a gas station and had somebody walk up and say, oh, you're doing Bigfoot research? Well, let me fill your trunk for free.
Pat's computer went.
Uh-oh.
Usually
not
he
connected.
Can rebound from that. But, I've never had anybody walk up and say, let me buy you a Big Mac. You must have been out working hard looking for Bigfoot today. It's never happened.
No.
Here's the one thing. And there, he's back. There he is. Let me get him back in the show here. Welcome back, Pat. Yeah, they gotta pull the string a little tighter there in Georgia for the internet. I say that to Chris all the time.
We have a squirrel running our internet, Pat.
That's right.
Sometimes he has to take a break.
It's all right. It's all right. I'm here. I'm back.
See, to that point, maybe something a lot of folks don't get, and maybe Pat and Jeff and even Chris, is that the reason why I may seem so virtuous or whatever is because when I got into this, there was no YouTube. There was no Facebook. There wasn't even MySpace. It was message boards. It was some websites, some arcane websites. Yeah. And eventually that moved to forums and Yahoo chat groups where you would send each other emails, not in like a IM type of deal. There was no money to be made in this. It was just pure research and that was it. Nobody was talking about money in this for years. That was something that came after I got into research by a number of years. I was into research for 10 years before I even appeared on television. And like I showed, I don't get paid for any of that. Hey, we'd like to follow you around. I mean, okay. They don't say, hey, we're going to pay you $500. No. And they say, we'd like to do this. Okay. I don't say, hey, give me X amount of dollars. I don't even say that. When I do conferences, that's the other thing. Conferences was mentioned too. You know, if they offer me money, I'll take it. But, you know, I think the most I've ever been paid for a conference was $500 to speak. That was it. And hold on.
Look.
Let me just finish on that point. Is that most times I go to speak, the only thing I'm getting is my travel money back in my room and board. That's it.
Yeah, dude. Like, look, nobody's accusing you of making, you know, like outrageous amounts of money.
No,
off,
I mean,
off the Bigfoot narrative.
But the funny thing is that when people say, oh, he's part of legacy Bigfoot media, they stereotype me all into this one group that I'm money driven and that I'm not driven for the truth, or I'm not driven for the.
I'll say this, Steve. It doesn't like legacy Bigfoot doesn't mean money. Like you're hyper, if you're hyper focused on the money aspect of it, you know.
Well, that was the accusation basically being laid out. Is that
not that I saw. Legacy Bigfoot is what it is. That's not an accusation of money. That is,
well, it is when you're told, well, this person is taking money from legacy media.
Can I ask a straightforward question of
it
Pat?
Could just be an attention thing. Yeah. What? Yes.
Would you say that legacy Bigfoot is a negative connotation?
Well, to the real phenomena?
Absolutely. No, I'm just saying that when somebody's going to say, well, I think that person's part of the legacy Bigfoot, or that's a legacy Bigfoot.
I mean,
it's an honest question. Is it meant as a negative connotation? Because if so, what would you define as being negative about it?
Man,
that's a tough question.
Yeah, that gets complicated because then we get into the whole like truthfulness of
and that's
things,
where I rested today with a couple conversations that I had. Is I don't care if a guy's selling T-shirts at a back table. I don't give a shit if somebody was. I mean, that's
pop culture.
A couple $100 for a hotel room to go speak at a conference. What I care about is, are people contriving and pulling data or experiences out of thin air to attract the train wrecks, or at least create
the narrative?
To create
the narrative,
right?
For the whether it's money or attention or fame, hold on, let me finish, please.
Sorry.
Or are we in a relentless true pursuit for a fucking truth?
Nobody's doing that.
Excuse me?
I would disagree and tell you to F off if that's what you're going to say, because I've never looked for anything besides the truth to this answer.
Exactly.
No, I mean,
never looked for anything.
I think Pat misinterpreted. I think Pat misinterpreted.
Yeah. I mean, I'm being general, Jeff. You know me. I will go the 99.999%. And say nobody.
The negative connotation for me is, if you're genuinely looking for the truth to this mystery, if you are trying to produce the truth, regardless of what it costs you, regardless of what it would reward you, you're simply pursuing the truth. I don't give a shit if you're selling Bigfoot barbecue sauce on your back table. Where I have a problem in the negative aspect of this is the almost 90% of the people that are looking at trying to find a truth, the faces that you're seeing on social media aren't looking for a truth. They aren't. They're looking for clicks.
Well, I mean, that's all very subjective.
$100 bill.
Yeah. So it's very subjective. So when I say nobody's looking for the truth, what I'm saying there, okay, to be clear, is that they aren't using the right techniques and the right tactics and the right technology They're just walking around. They're walking around the woods thinking that they're like finding some kind of truth when all they're doing is camping and hiking.
And finding, this break and that break, and look at this pile of rocks and look at that pile of rocks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And 100% behind you on that.
So they might be looking for the truth, but that's just in their head. And so, like, I'm not interested in what the fuck is in anybody's head. I'm interested in, this is what it takes to actually like find and observe a Bigfoot.
Right.
This is what it takes. I know what that is, 100%. And so, like, I come to it at that angle.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's that, and the other thing too is it's not like I do a lot of conferences a year. And that was the other thing that kind of struck me weird. It's like, yeah, there are legacy Bigfoot researchers. They do 20, 30, 35, 40 conferences a year, right? Almost every weekend they're out. I'm not. I think I have 7 listed and they stretch till next year. So I'm doing, I think 5 this year, 6 this year. And they're all grouped together, and 2 of them are right in my backyard. That's the reason why I'm doing it. And all of them, I'm asked to do them. All of them.
There's another thing that I'd like to mention about the conference thing. And that's that if you think that and I can't speak on behalf because unfortunately I think 90% of the people you're going to go listen to at a conference aren't there for the right reasons. As far as being up there speaking.
It depends. Festival is one thing, conference is the other, and there is a difference.
Let me just say this. I feel that when it comes to speaking at a conference, I'm just going to say firsthand, this is my opinion. I shared this with you today, Steve.
Yep.
Is that it's not about the 45 minutes you're going to go up and talk to people and the attention you get. It's not about the people lined up waiting to shake your hand. It's not about the free hotel room or the free breakfast they're going to give you to go there. And it's certainly not about the idea of how much money I can make at it, because for somebody like me, I don't have a TV show and I certainly don't have a familiar face with most people. For me, the highlight is when I sit down afterwards and somebody were to come up to me and say, let me tell you about something that happened to me. And I get to sit there and I get to listen to them share. And the reason why they chose to do that with me is they felt that and I'm assuming that if we're talking about somebody who actually had an experience that they don't understand, it doesn't make sense to them, may have been traumatizing to them. They're desperately looking for a truth to try to understand what happened, okay, or what they saw. And if they come up to me and they say, let me tell you about what happened to me, and I get an opportunity to hear that, if I can't help them, because right now they're hurting, whether you want to define it as that or not, they're hurting to be understood. They're hurting to find a truth. They're hurting because it doesn't make sense to them what they experienced. And I'm not talking about the people who are doing it just for attention or making shit up. I'm talking about somebody who may have actually had an encounter. If I have an opportunity to help them in some way, just by simply saying, I get it, dude. Okay. I hope that I could do that. And if I can't, I'd like to figure out where they're from and put them in touch with somebody that I feel is an integral resource that isn't out there for the buck, isn't out there to jack people around. And I'm going to tell you right now, if the book I'm selling on the back table is what made them walk past me to have that conversation, I'm fine with that. I don't have any problem with somebody making a little bit of money while they're pursuing the truth.
Yep.
Once you get off the course of pursuing the truth and you become motivated by something else, clicks, counts, all of that, it gets diluted to a point to where You can't go out in the field anymore and apply a scientific method with a frickin' motive or agenda behind it. I have to be neutral to the point that I'm willing to accept data that could prove that this doesn't exist as much as I am to accept the data that proves that it may. Okay. And if I can't go out there in that way, I can't be trusted to bring forth anything that people could look at and say, hey, this deserves some attention. So when we look at the motives that people are doing this for, if you're not looking for a truth, dude, you don't have any, there's a crack in the foundation that you are standing on at that point.
Right. Yep. Chris, you got anything to say? Anything to add?
Oh man, I've got about 1 million comments over here. I need.
All right, let's
sum
start.
up.
Let's take a break from talking. Let's have some comments and let's have some reaction.
Let's see. Now this is from the top here. Bugs Mitchell said the term legacy researcher has been used lately to cast aspersion on researchers. I think it's used by new researchers to say move over.
Yeah.
That one. Mick says Steve ain't no legacy researcher. He's more like Johnny. Okay, we already got that one. Johnny Rotten again. Sorry. Oh yeah, and after Mick and Walter gifted the memberships, and
Thank you, guys.
Danny Weeks gifted the $10, Mick said, "Steve, don't forget the remunerations." That's a new word for me.
Remunerations.
Mick, remunerations Walter and I get for all the gifted memberships.
Yes,
and
that's
I
right.
will
You
confess,
get a free one-on-one call with the Squatch Detective.
I did look that up. I did look that up. Yeah, remunerations. Okay, we can't say that in Kentucky. Apparently, some of us. Mick says, I can accept the legacy Bigfoot researchers, but I draw the line at the woo crowd. Can't abide the woonacy.
Yeah, I agree.
Tate Hieronymus says, Expedition Bigfoot is a real show. Hey, Tate.
It is a real show, but which island is it real? And then
Bigfoot's not there.
I watched it.
Yeah, and then in the background you hear,
Joan, get me a Snapple.
Anyway.
I watched Expedition Bigfoot up until the point when they said, "Oh, we had to go back 5 billion miles," and then you see the car tracks in the. they were talking about walking back, hiking back there, and you could see the car tracks in the grass. Well, right.
It's all like that.
And Bigfoot barbecues. I have personal friends being attacked right now. Sarah and Jonathan Brown are being harassed now because of chasing Bigfoot. None of us have ever even seen it.
What is chasing Bigfoot?
I think they meant casting or catching Bigfoot.
Capturing Bigfoot.
Capturing. Yeah. We got you.
Put that comment up again.
None of us have ever even seen it. No, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. And the people that have seen it, they're being attacked for relaying what's real. How ridiculous is that? Again, we go back to the church mentality, right, Pat?
Yeah.
That's
it is. That's what it is.
You're shooting the messenger.
Problem.
You're shooting the messengers.
Problem,
like Sarah and Jeff and Eric. They should not be attacked at all for saying what they had seen with their own eyes and what they believe. That's their opinion. That's their reality. Until you see that film, you have no bearing or no influence on what they believe, and nor should they. You can disagree with their beliefs, but you shouldn't knock the person. Don't shoot the messenger. They only saw the film.
Watch it yourself, folks. Watch it yourself.
Which is funny because I do have bearing. I have a lot of bearing on that film. Tons of bearing. I'm locked into that film. I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. But my bearing is locked in. Like, they did not, it's not a nothing burger film. Like, they would be idiots to release something that was a nothing burger, where you scratch your head and go, wow, I don't know. right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's going to be interesting.
No, it's gonna be absolutely destroying. Like, I'm telling you, like, there's no
Well, hold
way.
on.
What
that
does
they-
it destroy? That PGF was hoaxed,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
that's it.
It's going to be destroying for
That's it.
some people.
Mhm.
For some people, not
Yeah,
for
most.
everybody.
I'm going to say most. My prediction is the majority. Yeah.
I agree with you there, but I also believe that everything is done on a case by case basis, and this is just a case that's hung around for 6 decades.
Don't forget, there's
yeah,
still
but
flat
now-
earthers out
Yeah,
there.
but now
I mean,
now
denial
there's
is a powerful
now
thing.
there's finally fucking proof that it's like it was a hoax. And I'm telling you, they wouldn't have made the documentary if they didn't have the receipts that the proof was there.
I tend to
Yeah.
agree with that statement. That's why I'm going, ugh.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
like I
mean-
said, and I've even admitted in prior when this first started saying that maybe I looked at this through biased eyes at one particular point myself, and that when the announcement of this came out, I actually dug in deeper to things, and now I'm not so sure, and I'm leaning more and. There's so much I could say right now that I'm holding off until the documentary airs.
She's done. I mean, I've already said this in public. I'll say it again. Patty is done. She's never coming back.
Let's just say this. Let's just say this. Rhetorically, that film comes out. The majority of people that watch that film are not going to be from the Bigfoot community. The Bigfoot community is the minority compared to the rest of the world.
Yep.
And the rest of the world's going to say, it's fake.
Yep.
It's done.
Yep.
No matter how you look at it, it's going to be done as a piece of evidence.
Done. Absolutely. No.
I think articulately argue that it's not the most compelling evidence. It was the most culturally accepted, hands down, no argument. But I'll tell you this, if we were in a court of law and you brought forth that evidence to prove that Bigfoot is real, I don't even know that it would have been admissible on the grounds that all somebody has to say is could have been faked, could be a suit. Would it even make it? And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because over the last 10,000 years, cave wall paintings of a similar creature all around the planet Earth have occurred before mass transit, before mass communication. There was no way one guy got drunk around a fire 10,000 years ago and told this story, and somehow it was depicted on cave walls around the world.
And there's
something happened there.
Yep.
And I would say that would be more admissible in court to show that at some point in history, this thing wasn't an isolated story or hoax. It was seen in multiple times, multiple locations around the world. And that would probably be more court accepted evidence than a video of some guy that could or couldn't be a person wearing a suit.
Visual persuasion is the strongest form, dude. Yeah. So that's why the PG film has been what it has been over the years.
No doubt.
Visual persuasion is powerful, man.
And my first rule is before looking at any film submitted for evidence, look at the story behind it. If you look at the story behind it, the story doesn't fit. The Bigfoot Peeper case is my favorite case of all because here's a story that did not make sense. Then you look at the film and people were like jumping right on board with it. Like, oh my God, it's a Bigfoot in a window. Wait a minute. Look at the story behind it. It's crap. And then eventually I exposed a lot of it. And then eventually the film came out of not the photos that he was putting up, but the film came out and you could tell it was CGI. And, but all you had to do was look at the story behind it. And we'll be getting into that after the Capturing Bigfoot documentary. Let's look at the story behind the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, when you kill a
done.
sacred cow this big, takes a long time to eat that sumbitch.
Yeah.
Well, it does.
We're going to be digesting this for a long time.
But at the same time, it's funny you make that analogy because for a long time, people have been milking that teat of that sacred cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's going to be an instant, and there's actually going to be a very instant change in some way. I don't know. I'm not sure what that's going to be.
You're going to see a fracture, a
Yeah.
big fracture.
I don't think it's a big fracture, but I think most people with their arm folded right now are like they're gonna watch the doc and go, damn, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think
they're gonna take that gut punch. So my prediction is the vast majority of people that attend Bigfoot Church are gonna go, yeah, PG film was a hoax. Like, I don't see it going any other way. Like,
Well, it's going to open up a lot of new questions about the PG film.
it's going to open up a lot of questions about a lot of things, Chris.
Right.
Oh,
When,
yeah.
when the footage was
know.
shot and things of that nature. Yeah.
and, but who cares? Like,
I
all
do,
it-
because if it was shot after the Patterson-Gimlin film, it could be considered a recreation. But
yeah, but no, no. Okay,
care.
so
Yeah.
all right. So if the 40 seconds shows the same suit, that doesn't matter at all. That has zero relevance.
My point would be
Yeah.
this, and funny, I had a phone conversation today with someone. We were talking about this. It's the same theory that M.K. Davis says about the massacre theory. Let's think about this for a second. So we have a person perpetrating a wrongdoing, and then later on they create a film, right? They create a film using some element of the crime, which will make them guilty,
Right.
right? It's the same. We say that, oh, well, if they killed all those if they killed all those Bigfoot, why would they release a film at the crime scene, right?
Right.
Makes no sense. Same thing about a recreation. If they shot the Patterson-Gimlin film and then they wanted to recreate it, now, okay, they would make a Bigfoot suit and shoot it
And match it.
then not show it to anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Why
They
don't-
didn't show this to anybody. Why make
It's
a recreation if you're not going to show? Did not Philip Morris and Bob Hieronymus make a recreation and show it to everybody? And everybody laughed, right? Why did this one not get shown?
Correct. Those are not the
Common
more
sense.
questions.
Common
Those are not
sense.
the more questions.
Yeah.
The more questions that will come will be like, why the fuck was Bob Gimlin lying all these years? Well, how did he show up at conferences and play that role? Like, those will be the more questions, not when was it shot? Like,
You know,
yeah.
it
Oh,
does.
come on,
gotta-
man.
That
Chris,
question.
you gotta show green pause.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
If
I'm
it's
trying
shot
not to
after-
laugh here.
Yeah, that doesn't matter to me anymore. I mean, if it is, stick a fork in it. It's done. Move on.
If it's shot afterwards, it's a recreation of the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah, but
If
how
it
do they
looks-
make the suit? How do they
Well,
make the suit look so
That's
good?
the thing.
When
That
nobody-
film pass,
nobody
we're gonna
else-
have to wait and find out by watching the video. Is it the same suit, or is it a recreation of the Patterson-Gimlin film creature, as best they could do?
But hold on.
know.
But logic says that every film that was shot, the Patterson-Gimlin film
yeah,
and their famous casting film was all shot with 67 stock.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
telling
all-
me
it's
they're using
documented.
older film to shoot later?
it can happen.
It can happen, but it's
It can happen.
But the video, the experts say that this was a fresh roll. It was filmed with a fresh roll of film, and they can
Well,
tell.
come
they
on,
can
man.
they can tell by the quality of the film.
Yeah.
All right, you're not an expert there. I'm not.
I'm not
relying on
claiming to
what
be.
I'm
doesn't
relying on what
matter.
the experts are saying, and they said, well, it was very obviously shot. But why would you shoot a recreation and not show it?
If it's
Why would you shoot a recreation and not use that film for something?
No,
If
no,
it
no, no.
Makes
If
no
it-
sense.
if it's the same goddamn suit, It's the same suit. That's all that matters.
Well, I agree, Pat, but if it's done
Yeah.
afterwards, right? The argument is that that was a recreation.
Yeah, and that's absurd. That's
Right?
not
Well,
realistic.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at.
absurd.
Why would you
Well-
create a recreation and not show it? Why would that be locked up in a safe for all these years? Makes
that's
no
one-
sense.
That's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most in seeing this documentary is when Eric shared one of the most impactful things to him was not just them claiming it's a suit, this and that. When they start comparing the suit that's in this 40-second video and the PGF suit or the PGF patty, whatever you call it, a suit, call it a creature. He said they really compared side by side, started showing you pinpoint markers on the back of it, things like this. And to me, if they did that properly, if there are actually pinpoint markers that are that comparable between this suit and what we're seeing in the PGF film, I think Pat brings up an interesting point. It doesn't matter if it was shot before or after.
It doesn't.
What day did they wear the suit first?
Right.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
But we know from following the Chris knows we know from following the money that the recreation was likely shot before the Patterson Higgins was found.
If that's the thing. If but here's the
You
deal,
know what?
though.
I think everybody is throwing out common sense because they have a little bit of love for that film, right?
They're trying to, but I
did.
also believe that it's 100% impossible to remove all aspects of speculation.
Right.
As
I
good
agree.
as a job you guys did at following a money trail, things like that. Yeah, it's maybe part of some cumulative evidence, but on its own, it doesn't remove any speculation. I mean, it still doesn't prove it.
One of the questions that I want answered, Jeff, is if Patterson burned that suit after he done the deed, why in the devil was that first film reel not in the burn barrel with the suit?
It's a good question.
Well, you know what? Like, that's a human thing. That's a people thing. Like, that's things got out of control at some point. You got to remember this was years down the road.
Right.
And this got...
Why did Al Diatley say, when asked where he had it developed, he says, I don't remember.
That's a problem. Yeah.
That's a huge problem. You know why? Because Norm Davis did it.
Again,
Right.
Again, it doesn't matter how this film ended up in that safe, right? It doesn't matter.
It did. It ended up
Somehow
in the
it
safe.
did.
Right.
Yes. And so if that's proven to be the case, right, beyond the shadow of a doubt,
Right.
then that's all that matters. You don't go why or how or like I don't know, go talk to those people.
Listen,
how did it happen? You know,
if this is laid out in the documentary in any courtroom, and then you put that money timeline on it too, it put a fork in it. Put a fork in it because
We're gonna have a conviction.
Well, we're already there. The jury's coming. Like, you don't even have to say courtroom, Steve.
Yeah.
Well,
because
and here's
the jury is already there. It's going to
here's
be
another
there.
thing to consider is that if this is shown to be a hoax, even though there are people who will deny that the sky's blue, and they'll stand on that hill till they're dead, what's likely going to happen is a further pushing off the cliff of the PG film. And I can see that happening because what the documentary is going to show you is roughly 2 hours or an hour and a half of what they used. Now, is it going to encourage Patricia to come forward more and do more interviews and talk more about it? Is it going to encourage Bob or his wife or other people to say, you know what? At this point, let me say this. Are we going to find out that the 5 minutes of Meldrum's reaction to seeing the video and stuff, now that he's not here to speak, is actually There's another 25 minutes of him talking about it on the cutting room floor. Let's see that in the next.
Extended cut, right? Yeah.
There's so much coming forward following this that everybody's waiting for the documentary. The documentary is going to be pulling the slice of pepperoni off the pizza and eating it and still having a whole damn pizza.
Yeah, let's see the director's cut on the DVD, or let's see that with the.
That's what the holdup is. I can promise you right now that the documentary that we're gonna see when it drops is not the documentary that Eric saw.
I don't know about that.
There's gonna be extra shit.
There may be.
I think we'll likely see what Eric saw because too many people, even though in the big picture, not a lot of people have seen it. There are too many people that seen it that would be able to throw that flag. But what you're going to find out is that when this documentary drops, it'll be when they are prepared to follow it up. This documentary is the jab to you right in the nose. They're going to be prepared to follow it up with the uppercut and the roundhouse kick to the jaw and everything else.
They've gotten incredible feedback that they didn't like. I don't think they could have predicted, to be honest with you. Because they weren't in the Bigfoot world, right? Even though they dipped their toe into all that heavy shit, they still weren't in the Bigfoot world. and now they've gotten that backup. And dude, like Mark Evans on that podcast, a few weeks ago was like, no, like, oh, we captured all this shit on camera of, Bill Munns saying all this shit. And it's like, we could put that in the fucking documentary if we want.
Yeah, here's the announcement that occurred a few days ago on their Instagram page, saying to the world premiere of capturing. It's hard to believe it's only been a month. Millions of people. We're excited to change that soon. So y'all get my guess is they know where it's going now, and there's a deal done. Where it's going to show up, when it's going to show up, we don't know. But
let's not forget one other thing. The producer who's doing this has spent a lifetime, or at least a pretty good career, teaching the fundamentals of filmmaking, and Director 101 will tell you, always leave them wanting more. Don't think they're going to drop this without being prepared to follow it up with even more evidence that should be considered. I don't think this is a one and done deal.
Well, according to his interviews, it is a one and done.
Well,
because he specifically addressed that.
It may be, but it's going to leave enough loose ends that you're going to light 100 other fuses.
What he specifically says is that maybe there'll be a director's cut at some point in time, or maybe there'll be some extras on a DVD or something similar to that effect. So that's what I think is going to happen, is that you may see the interviews a little more in depth on like a DVD or a Blu-ray version of it, where you can get all the unfiltered, the stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor. Or you might see an extended version, DVD that may be like a 2-hour running time or a 2-hour, 10-minute running time. Mm-hmm. Right now, that film was cut for 1 hour, 42 minutes, which was the run time at the channel. And if you do know, Legacy Bigfoot researcher, I do know that 1 hour and 42 minutes means it's set for a 2-hour slot on a network. So,
they can add more in. They can add more in.
Yep. Absolutely.
Ever since the PGF was released 60 whatever years ago, how many documentaries, how many segments, how many analogies have been conducted trying to forensically decipher what we've looked at? Okay. The same thing's going to happen with this documentary.
Right.
You're going to have people who are still pro PGF trying to analyze further, and you're going to have people. This is going to push. This is going to push this issue to a defining factor. There will be no limbo where it's left off at.
Yeah, there's no 50,
I believe it will be pushed to a defining factor, because even if the director says, I'm not making a part 2, Somebody is, and somebody's making a part 27, and somebody's making a part 35, and they're going to get to where you can't either. Aren't going to be able to deny it.
But when you squash a duck like this, it's pretty much a one and done. In other words, your sequel, nobody's going to care. It's already been ruled a hoax. Nobody cares about any more additional stuff. Right. Only the Bigfoot community does. Right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Only the world will be. So you got to think of a lot, and that's the problem with a lot of the Bigfoot. You know, I remember back in 2008 with that whole Georgia Bigfoot thing. I got hate mail saying, "Oh, how much did you get paid for all the clicks to your website?" I don't get paid for clicks to my website. I mean, you know, people have some confounded notions. People have some confounded notions that, you know, well, Steve's been all these documentaries. He must be raking in the cash. No. Right? There are so many misconstrued ideas that and being a real world investigator, right? The idea of this being a recreation, like I say, amounts to the same thing of, well, if they shot all these Bigfoot, why do a film? It's the same thing. If you have the real thing, you're not going to go out and build a suit, have Bob Gimlin on the front of this shoot and do the exact same thing. You're not going to do that.
Right. Correct.
Right. It makes no, and if you did it, why wouldn't you show it to everybody? Say, see, it's a suit. It's not the same Bigfoot, right? We tried to recreate. Why hide it?
Patterson never finished his documentary.
Well, you know,
he did not. Closest thing you can get to it is watching Sasquatch: The Legend of Bigfoot by Ron Olson.
If you look at the evidence, that it's possible but unlikely he used 66 film to shoot this. According to everybody around it, it was put away because the film was something dubious going on, right? You have to look at the analysis of why wouldn't they talk about Bigfoot in that Davis household? Why did his wife tell him to lock that film away and never speak of it again? Right? If this was just a recreation film.
Yeah.
It makes no common sense. As an investigator, it makes no sense. You look at the stamping, it's a 66 stamp. Okay, it could have been shot in the first half of 67 because all the latter films were shot with 67 stock. It only makes sense that a store would rotate their stock, right? You're not gonna go to a store and buy 66 film if you're already.
I've bought film that was old film that's on sale. Yeah.
But I know where you shop.
They do that. No.
Right. But don't forget that's today. And we know what employees are like today. We don't know what employees were like back then. Right. Where there was more responsibility. The person that was in the shop was told to do X, Y, and Z, and they did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Right. Nowadays it's, I'm on my phone. I got to rotate the stock.
So let's all agree on this. I mean, I think we can. The minute this documentary does drop, right? I mean, it's going to be like that important part, the 40 seconds, the suit, all that. That is going to be screenshot plastered to the internet immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately. So like even the people that aren't watching it are going to see it, it's
going to be a madhouse. But Chris and I will be watching the doc live for the first time each. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on our off screen. And we're just going to videotape our reactions and our comments as we're watching the doc. We can't air the doc, and we're going to watch it for the first time together in front of the whole audience. So it's going to be kind of a fun thing.
Is we need to all hook up, the four of us, in the same location, get a nice long couch, set the camera behind the couch like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, right.
Big bowl of popcorn.
And
run the film of us reacting as we watch it. You might garner as many hits as the damn movie does itself.
I mean, it's. Yeah, it's just like, I mean, like for real, like just to be honest about what's going to happen when the doc drops, is that those screenshots are going to come out immediately. Like they're going to plaster everything. So
yeah, I'm anxious to see it.
I mean-
I'm anxious to see it because there's so
I mean,
many people on
me
both sides
too.
of the fence. You know,
Well, me too.
And listen, if I hold
you
one
know.
opinion against anybody else's, don't take it personally. This is not a personal battle. This is a
I'm
battle.
taking it personally. Steve.
No. I'm talking about anybody in the audience, anybody listening. Don't
Anybody.
take it personal. This is only one piece of evidence. We can agree to disagree on stuff. Doesn't mean we have to hate each other. Doesn't mean we have to call names to each other. I'm not wishing anything bad to anybody. Bob Gimlin, Patricia Patterson, Clint Patterson, anybody. I just want to get to the truth. That's
Truth.
the plain and simple thing. Because a lot of
Truth
people
matters.
say,
Yes.
I know somebody said, earlier about, well, I want to know why Bob Gimlin was lying for so many years if this turns out to be a hoax. I don't really care. I already know. All right. I've known enough about psychology and interview psychology and why people say the way they, things. I already know why that was done. And I know why that they use this straw argument. Well, he was offered $1 million to tell the truth. Well, $1 million when somebody is like age 85, 90, they don't care at that point. It's about legacy. And look at the blowback that they would get if they turned around and admitted they were lying to all these people all these years. There would be tremendous blowback. It's not worth $1 million. And then you have to look at the other fact. Is the offer really serious? That's always in the back of somebody's mind. Show me the case.
True.
Right?
Well, it's
you
a
have
lot easier to stand on a hill and die on it when you're 90-some years old than it is.
But that offer
I hate
made,
that sounds
that offer was
cold-hearted,
made
but
like
it's true.
20 years ago, by the way.
Well, even 20 years ago, you would not stand on it because you have to step out your front door every single day.
Yeah. No, I get your logic, Steve. I'm not disagreeing with your logic. Bob was not 85 then. Yeah. He was 65, that blew my mind. That was one of those things that really made the PG film stick in my head that much harder as a possible real Bigfoot, was because of that, so I even I totally bought that hook, line,
Right.
and
Yeah, sure.
Ever since I really went back and circled back and focused on the PGF film after my encounter, the only thing that I could really wrestle with was that doesn't look like what I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
Nor does it look what I saw.
And when
Twice.
Doug told me that over the phone in person, I offered Bob $1 million, all that shit, and I was like, wow, that must mean it's real. And to be where I am at now and go, wow.
But you see,
the script can flip that quick, guys. The script can flip that quick, so.
Yeah. I have swayed over the years. Like I said, I went on the X Zone radio back, I think 2005, 2006, defended the film.
Yeah.
And I've always said that Greg Wong's, the reason why I didn't believe Greg Wong's book was because of the inclusion of what's his name? Philip Morris. Philip Morris, right? And I explained too in the past, and again, I hate to preach to the choir, but in case we have new listeners or viewers, when you present a case for the prosecution, right? If you introduce something that tends to not be so strong, and then you incorporate that into your case so deeply, that 1 week piece collapses the whole case. And that's what it did for me for Greg Long's book, was the Philip Morris thing did not seem to fit with that, but yet he was trying to tie it all together. Right.
Yeah. The one thing he got wrong about it.
Right. And let's go back to everything looked bad for OJ until if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And that one little thing scrapped their whole entire case against OJ.
Killed it. Yeah. You're right. I mean, that is how it works.
And of course, having that confirmation bias bit in me that when you come into Bigfooting, even though it's 98, yeah, the Patterson-Gimlin film, that's a real deal, and all your mentors and everybody you're saying, yeah, we believe that's the real thing. You tend to go along with it and tend not to question it. And then after years, you start to question things. And then all of a sudden, you're the bad guy for questioning things. Hey, I'm just questioning things. That's just part of my nature. Now I'm swayed right now that it doesn't look good. And but by own standard of evidence, I won't drop the gavel completely on it. I will play devil's advocate for those making straw arguments on both sides.
Yeah, Bug says, why are people caving on the Patterson-Gimlin film without having seen the new footage? Can the guest explain that?
I can explain that.
Yeah, it's easy.
Because until the doc drops,
it's done.
Until the doc drops, we're kicking a dead Bigfoot, and it's likely it's not even a real Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Well,
again,
pardon the analogy, but that's where we're at. Right now.
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead. Pat.
Yeah, again, like this documentary wouldn't be coming out at all if it was a nothing burger. They wouldn't be releasing a nothing burger. Obviously, they're bringing the receipts. Like, Mark went on air.
Pat, you can't honestly say that, though, because I know for a fact you think the S4 Bob Lazar documentary that's just been dropped is a complete bullshit burger. So why would they have dropped that if it's a complete bullshit burger, right?
That's a good point.
No. That's two different worlds. That's like trying to prove.
Dude, but your analogy of why would you bring a documentary
because it's easy to
a nothing burger.
Okay, because it's easy to drop a documentary that goes with the spooky story narrative. Rather than the debunking.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I not to interdict again, but that's another reason why we talk about this legacy Bigfoot researcher. Why don't I have 100,000 subscribers? Right? If I'm into all these wild stories and like all the story channels are and all the channels that have all these unfiltered stories, right? They have 100,000, 50,000, 25,000. We're climbing, but we're not climbing as fast as these knuckleheads.
Not as many people are interested in the truth, Steve.
Right, exactly.
More people interested in stories.
But that is the bottom line, is that it's easier to sell. It's easier to sell a spooky story than it is a debunked story. So if you're going to sell,
very true.
If you're going to sell a debunked story, you have to bring the receipts.
Let me clarify one other thing. Let me clarify one other thing too, and it's just based on what Mick had just posted. He said, for the record, Doug Hychek offered Gimlin $1 million. Let's clear that up. Doug Hychek had a working relationship with like 2 or 3 different networks at the time. And he told one of the execs he was working with, you guys ought to put up $1 million to see if he'll do that, because if why not try to tempt him? Because if he does, you've got programming. And the executive agreed and said, offer it to him. So don't think this was coming out of Doug's pocket.
It was.
I just want to clarify that, because I don't want people to think Doug Hychek's walking around with $50 million.
But Jeff,
$1 million here.
Wouldn't you consider that more intimidating not to take it, because now everybody in the world is going to see that, and everywhere you go, they're going to point, because you look very specifically. Nobody can not unrecognize Bob Gimlin in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to point. There's the guy that was the liar. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, that is a tough psychological thing to overcome.
Steve, I watched your show on that, and I totally agreed with you on your reasoning of like, here's the reason why somebody would actually turn down $1 million, which is not something that people think in their head, like normally.
Everybody thinks people are money motivated.
I would do it, right?
Yeah.
Like I would do it.
I would do it.
Like, yeah, you know what?
But
I would-
psychologically, you're not in that mind frame. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
if I do this though, remember, this is a weight they have on the conscience. They walk out the door every day. When you sit there, flimsically without being in that psychological mindset of having that secret, you think differently because. Yeah, I
agree.
you know,
I agree.
it's like the folks that say, "Oh, you can't get me to confess to anything." Well, I don't know anything. I don't have any evidence against you. And you know, by the way, if there's no consequences, it's easy to say, "Oh, I'd take the $1 million," right? But there's consequences if he took the $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1 million is a lot of money, though.
Holy crap! It's 10:52 already.
Oh man. $1 million. Would you say something that was would you confess to a hoax for $1 million?
No.
There's a lot of people that not only would or wouldn't, let's just say, confess to a hoax, they'd make up a complete freaking story to collect the check and cash.
Well, there are
Exactly.
some, but they are
I
not.
might confess to something I never even thought about doing.
Yes,
for $1 million.
Right, but then again, you're not thinking in that mindset of having done something wrong and then having to
I
confess
get
to
it.
it.
I get you
Right.
exactly right.
The mindset is different with the cognition. If you're holding a truth that is generally a negative truth, such as, "Oh, this is a hoax," well, and you're offered the money to come out. Well, I'm not coming out with it at all. You know, what are people going to say about me? What are people going to say about my wife? I have to go to the market with my wife, and people are going to be in the supermarket looking at me. I'm going to have to drive down and get auto insurance, and then they're all going to be talking behind my back, right?
When you're talking about 60 some years of, if this is the case, perpetrating and propping up a hoax, after probably the first 10 years, you kind of get auto-tuned to it, okay?
Sure,
you
absolutely.
get cruise control. You can deal with that. There's going to come a time where somebody's going to offer you something, or you're going to, after 50 years of just dealing with it, reach a point in your life where you're reflecting differently on something
Right.
and say, what do I do with this? And I'm only going to say that because I'm starting to reach an age where the principles and the things that I use to guide how I run my business, how I raise my children, all that, at 57 years old, I kind of look back and there are little things I look at and say, I wouldn't do that the same.
Yeah.
And at 2 years old he is, Bob Gimlin is, even if it was 10 years ago, he may be at a point in his life where he's looking at something and saying, how, boy, that's tempting, $1 million, but how do I go to the store? How will people react? How am I going to have to pay this price?
What are people going to say to my wife? People have families.
Even look and feel.
You never know, dude. It's a people. You get into the people thing, which is what I really appreciated about Steve and what he had to say about that and the psychology, because it does dive into the people thing, not the Bigfoot thing. It's just people. It's like, dude, Bob's a person. Maybe he actually had his reasons, which blew my mind. Because I listened to Doug Hijack tell me on the phone personally to me, yeah, I offered Bob $1 million. And I'm like, God, well, it has to be real, right? It has to be real.
Right.
Well, but
I
Doug talked about it on the show just a couple weeks ago.
What does that prove, though? And like I said,
Nothing.
offering $1 million is a straw argument. Somebody said to me, Kulls, do you want $1 million to admit your Bigfoot sightings were a hoax? No, I'm not going to take it. Number one, my sightings are true because mine are true. But even if they were, I have to live with myself. I would have to live in front of everybody. Right? So it's a straw argument either way. It can go either way, right? Only the greedy person, the person that motivates on money, and we've talked about it. Gee, Steve, you're not interested. If you find Bigfoot, you're not. Well, the money really never came into effect. Here it is, right?
Yeah.
The money will come, but that's not even my thought process, right? And that's foreign to some people. Well, it's not foreign to everybody. In fact, it's there's people that, again, Bob claims to be an ethical guy. Maybe he made some handshake deal with Bob Gimlin or Roger Patterson many years ago, and he's keeping it.
Right.
Don't know.
Here's another
Don't
thing,
know.
and here's an analogy everybody can relate to. If you ever watch any of these reality, I mean, whether or not it's on a Facebook post or whether it's on a TV show, we see a lot of reality TV following law enforcement, and they're pulling people over. They got them busted dead to rights with, somebody gives a fake name, and they're like, well, they're running through the system. This ain't your real name. What do you got? Warrants? What are you hiding? No, that's my name. Well, I know it's not your name. It's not coming back. No, that's my name. Are there drugs in the car? No, there's not drugs in the car. Well, this person that you're telling me doesn't exist. And they stick to this lie to a point that they're still in cuffs an hour later in jail sticking to the lie. It's like,
and then finally they say,
the merry-go-round got swinging so fast they couldn't figure out how to get off of it.
Right. True.
So I want to ask if you guys know, when do you think Bob Gimlin's, well, at least the first, other than the 67 interviews and the 68 interviews, when did Bob Gimlin first talk about the PGF film? Anybody have an idea?
It's my understanding was maybe at some point during the 70s and maybe into the 80s, but really, I mean, Bob Gimlin didn't hit the Bigfoot scene as we know it until the early 2000s.
Right. I have a couple of interviews from him. I have a radio interview for him and a documentary interview for him in 93 and 94.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, interesting what was said during those two.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And was that television and or radio?
Both. One was television, one was radio.
Yeah, I mean, so that's going to be a whole nother issue to deal with. Like when I say deal with the rest of the crowd, like, because I'm telling, I mean, obviously, dude, the documentary is what it is.
When the smoke clears, there's still going to be people standing in the smoke.
Well, we have
that's
to
fine.
let me remind everybody we still need to see the evidence. For all we know, we could see a film that looks like that's
fine. I get the whole reserve your judgment thing. Like I'm already there, obviously. Yep. But so when I predict and check the tape, rewind, you future people, rewind.
Right.
And look at it. Like, when the smoke clears, it's going to be, fuck.
Yeah, it could be. Very well could be for a lot of people. But
like this, so.
Hey, guys. Wait, guess what time it is?
Time to go.
Yep. All right, Chris, take us out, baby.
Well, I'm going to thank Jeff and Pat for hanging out with us and having this wild discussion. It's been a wild one. We appreciate having you guys on, and I want you to come back real soon. I want to thank everybody over in the chat for hanging out with us. And make sure, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Smash that thumbs up button and leave a comment. It's the best way to show support for the channel. We got the greatest audience that we could ever hope to have, and we know this is only possible because of you. Thank you so much. And if you get a chance, check out the store. Steve's got some books over there. Check out the merch. That's a good way to support the channel too. And
gotta pay these bills, baby.
Forensic witness interviewing. That's right. Gotta pay the bills. But you guys can see we don't really make that much money, so your support helps. Okay. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Yes. And don't forget that beginning in May, we're going to have 8 online sessions for our members on forensic interviewing. How to get the most out of your witness, how to maybe deception determination, how to deal with that. And that'll all be coming in the middle of May, coming up soon. So shortly thereafter, I think it's now we have one weekend show left to go. That's next week. And then I'll be off to the Ohio Bigfoot Conference to talk there for the first time. Be kind of a fun thing. You stretch out. We'll get a read on the population there about what's going on with the Patterson-Gimlin film. Maybe they'll put me in a corner for everything I've done. I don't know. But anyway, want to wish everybody a happy and safe work week. We will be back here on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Squatch-D TV. Until then, everybody, God bless. Take care and stay safe. But remember, keep on squatching. We'll see you all Wednesday night.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.